homocysteine. Sorry, on YouTube, I just went started, but today I wanted to speak to you about elevated homocysteine. Many in the plant-based world have heard about homocysteine and that how it should be measured to make sure that you're getting enough B12. And I'm going to explain what homocysteine is, the risk of having it too high, and some other ways you can measure your B12 as well. So let me pull up my notes here. First of all, what is even homocysteine? You hear about it, but you're like kind of vague on what it actually is. So homocysteine is an amino acid. Now, it's not one of those 22 amino acids that actually are utilized to build proteins. There's about 140 what they call non-proteinogenic amino acids. These are amino acids that we get from other sources, but it's not that your body can make, but it's not used to build the protein structures. So don't need to do a biochemistry lesson, but just to know that it is an amino acid and it's an intermediate, meaning it's in the middle of the metabolism of methionine. Now that is an essential amino acid that we get from our diet, and it's plenty of methionine in the plant-based world as well. So you get nuts and seeds, legumes, whole grains, all of that. So no worries about the methionine. Now, it's an important kind of to describe the overview of homocysteine metabolism. First of all, methionine metabolism, it's important there. So methionine is first converted, I'm going to get a fancy words here, guys. Forgive me if I'm saying words you're like, I don't know what you just said, but I just want to talk about three important pathways first. But methionine is first converted to what they call S-adenosyl methionine, or SAM for short. It's in various biochemical reactions it's used. SAM, it donates what they call a methyl group to different various biochemical reactions, and then it becomes what they call S-adenosyl homocysteine, or SAH, okay? And then you take the SAH is then hydrolyzed, there we go, to produce homocysteine. So methionine to homocysteine. It's just there's some important pieces there that we need to understand. Then homocysteine, right, can be remethylated. So it can be converted back to methionine and called what we call remethylation. And that requires folate, which is vitamin B9, and B12 as cofactors. So that's the piece there that's important around the B12. If you're eating a whole food plant-based diet and eating plenty of dark green leafy veggies, you should be getting plenty of folate. I just want to keep that in mind. And then there's one other pathway. It's called the sulfuration pathway. So basically, homocysteine can enter that pathway and then produce cysteine, which is another amino acid. This requires peroxidine, or B6. Okay, so when you look at elevated homocysteine, many times people go, oh, you have either a B9, B6, or B12 deficiency. And that'll come to be important here in a minute. But basically, anytime your homocysteine is above, especially above 10, that seems to be where your risk factors come into play. And there's a few things that we need to be mindful of. Elevated homocysteine can increase risk for heart disease and things like stroke. And I'll get to the mechanisms here in a minute, or proposed mechanisms. But that's what we call hyperhomocysteinemia, meaning it's just high homocysteine in the blood. And again, just want to speak to that in a minute. But what are some of the causes other than a few of the vitamin deficiencies? Well, like I mentioned, it's folate, vitamin B9, vitamin B12, and then vitamin B6, which I just spoke to the pathways of each of those. And then there could be some genetic factors. So you may have heard of MTHFR gene mutation. So it's fairly common, but the big problem would be if you have both of them from your parents, because then you're having a little bit less efficiency in the conversion of homocysteine to methionine. You know that when it went back to methionine, that other essential amino acid. Sometimes chronic kidney disease can be a problem because the kidney is used to remove homocysteine in the blood. So that could be an issue. Hypothyroidism, meaning that your thyroid is underactive. However, that should be alleviated if you're being treated appropriately with medication. And then there's certain medications like methotrexate, which is a common medication utilized in autoimmune disease because it can interfere with folate metabolism. So many times when you're prescribed methotrexate, you're also given a higher dose of folic acid. which is a synthetic form of folate in the vitamin supplement. There's other like epilepsy drugs, and those can sometimes increase homocysteine. Those are the ones that are used to treat seizures. Also niacin, believe it or not. So high doses of niacin can also elevate homocysteine. Sometimes people will take high doses of niacin to help with their lipids, cholesterol and triglycerides. So you want to be very mindful of that. If you've recently increased your niacin supplementation and you have elevated homocysteine, I might want to talk to your doctor about that. Also fibrates. So fibrates are they're used to lower lipids as well. Those can also increase your homocysteine levels. And then some other things just associated with lifestyle, smoking, excessive alcohol consumption, and because it kind of affects the folate metabolism again. And in some individuals, there's been some interesting studies suggest that excessive coffee consumption. And what would be excessive coffee consumption? Probably more than 1 or 2 cups a day. Other skin conditions, interesting. Psoriasis has been shown to have some elevated homocysteine levels. Inflammatory bowel disease, like Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis. This is probably related to the decrease of absorption of your B vitamins. And then there's some really rare genetic disorders like homocystinuria. It's where the body doesn't process the amino acid methionine very well. And that can lead, of course, to elevated homocysteine. Sometimes they say age, I don't know. Other things like lupus, certain malignancies, sometimes being in a postmenopausal state can elevate homocysteine. I think that might be related to choline metabolism. And if you're, when you have low estrogen, you don't, you can't use choline very well. And especially if you're coming in from sometimes you can have a choline deficient diet. And the important thing to understand, choline is really important for nerve health and also removing lipids from the liver. So if you're finding that you have fatty liver, sorry guys, had a phone call there. It kind of disrupted there. Anyway, that might be something to consider. But outside of that, just know that sometimes menopause can mess with that as well. Good old menopause. Okay, and then so I want to talk to the mechanisms of why an elevated homocysteine above 10 could be an issue, and just speak to the, like I said, the mechanisms of why you have an increased risk of heart disease or heart attack or stroke. So they think there may be some issues with endothelial dysfunction. Now remember, that's that really thin layer of cells inside the arteries. And because the elevated homocysteine has shown to impair the production of nitric oxide, and that's the chemical that actually relaxes and dilates your blood vessels. And so if you think about that, it can cause reduced blood flow and then potentially vascular injury. Oxidative stress. So homocysteine can promote the production of reactive oxygen species, which can also increase oxidative stress. And then that can affect, of course, the endothelial cells and, again, lead to atherosclerosis or the building up of plaque within the arterial walls or the stiffening of the arteries. It also can cause what they call promotion of thrombosis. So homocysteine can increase the tendency of blood to clot. That's what the thrombosis means, by enhancing what they call platelet aggregation. So platelets are used in the body to help clot the blood. So let's say you cut your hand, the body sends platelets to help aggregate or clump together and start the clotting process. And that's an important thing to know also with heart attack. Sometimes the injury, let's say you have a little plaque that flicks off inside one of the heart arteries and it shoots downstream. Well, that open wound, just like you have a cut on your hand, can cause the platelets to aggregate and to clot, which can cause a heart attack. So anyway, just wanted to speak to that. And then inflammation. So elevated homocysteine can induce inflammation within the blood vessels. let's see here. Also, you can have some alteration of collagen and what we call elastin. So, homocysteine can interfere with the cross linking of collagen and elastin, which is really important for the structure of your blood vessels. If you don't have good cross linking, if you think about like a basket that's woven, when you have the basket's been damaged and there's some of the strands are broken, you can think of it becomes weaker in that area. So the same can be said about blood vessels. Um, Another thing that's probably less of an issue, but a cysteine disulfide formation. So basically, homocysteine can form what they call disulfide bonds with another amino acid called a cysteine, leading to increased levels of homocysteine, cysteine disulfides in the blood. Okay, these compounds are very toxic to the endothelium as well. Also can cause what we call smooth muscle cell proliferation. So if you understand the mechanism of atherosclerosis, or how the arteries become harder and cause plaque formation, part of that process is the smooth muscles inside the blood vessels can cause proliferation or increases, which can cause thickening of the blood vessel, which is, again, it's a narrowing of the blood vessel lumen, or the inside of the blood vessel, which can be a hallmark of atherosclerosis. And then finally, you get impaired methylation. So basically, elevated homocysteine levels can indicate disturbances of that. And so it's really important. Methylation is really important for many cellular processes or functions, like lipid metabolism, gene expression, protein formation, function, which can have downstream effects for your heart health. So again, you would want to have these checked, especially as a plant-based person, because we are sometimes low in B12 if you're not supplementing adequately. Many times I will request patients to take 500 to 1,000 micrograms of B12 daily. And the reason I say that is we absorb a very small amount of any of the B12 supplements. So I found that that's the adequate dose to keep levels above 500 when you check your blood measures. So if your B12 is above 500, you're probably okay. You don't want to get it too high either. So anything over like 1100, 1200 be too high. So you might want to back up a little bit. Now, on occasion, I will see some people who can maybe take one dose, a higher dose once a week. But I found that that's just not as effective as daily dosing. The other thing you'd want to check is methylmalonic acid, and that's another pathway that requires B12 to be further metabolized. So you can measure homocysteine and methylmalonic acid and see if your B12 levels are adequate. Methylmalonic acid being elevated is less of an issue than the elevated homocysteine in regards to your heart health and risk for a stroke. So there you go, guys. Spoke to homocysteine. I also wanted to share with you, again, just remind you about the Healing Kitchen that I run with Brittany Giroudi. And we meet Wednesdays live. Brittany provides, I don't, 2 recipes per week. And we cook them together with her and learn from her and all of her amazing experience. And then I answer all and any medical questions the last half hour. In addition, we have a premium Healing Kitchen membership where I do workshops once a month and completely free. And this month, we're going to speak to what are the plant-based labs that you should be paying attention to and potentially get tested. And I will also provide an ebook, and homocysteine will be one of those things. I'm also encouraging people to bring their labs if they have any questions in regards to abnormal findings or questions that they have that maybe they don't feel satisfied that their doctor has answered. And I'm happy to give some insight and some recommendations. So that's available if you join the Healing Kitchen, the premium membership. Also, at the premium membership, we do once a month expert workshops. These are on a Saturday. Again, these are free to the Healing Kitchen premium members. This coming month in November, we have the amazing Dr. Michael Clapper. In December, we will have Kim Campbell. And in January, we have Brenda Davis. So I'm excited to talk to these guys. I don't know about you, but I'm excited to be there. So Again, those who join just by the workshop, you can do that as well. If you don't want to join the Healing Kitchen, there will be a page up later to join any of the workshops that we have, but you will get a free month of the Healing Kitchen just for buying the workshop as well. So I hope you found that helpful. Again, I'm also accepting new patients, and you can find me at drmarbus.com. That's also where you can join the Healing Kitchen. Just go to drmarbus.com and click. I think the link is somewhere down here. And then the Healing Kitchen, and feel free to join. So thanks again for listening. I hope you found that helpful, and would love to hear your comments and questions and suggestions for further videos. I don't know. I just kind of always want to make sure that these are helpful for you, and I hope they find the right people. So you guys have a great day, and I will see you tomorrow. Again, this is always fun trying to point all the fingers. Here we go.